Welcome back to our channel, the place where we dive deep into turbulent love stories, buried secrets, and emotional journeys of self-discovery. Today, we're following the most dramatic chapter yet in the lives of Huyen and Deem. One is a billionaire CEO hiding under the guise of a battered day laborer. The other is a high society lady who chose to haul pomelos just to protect her love. After a near-fatal blow, the laborer didn't fall. Instead, he stood up with the cold, sharp gaze of a king. His memory has returned. Huyen remembers everything: the horrific accident, the face of the traitor, and the promise he made to the girl named Deem. But the surprises don't stop there. Instead of seeking immediate revenge, the powerful CEO chooses to stay at the Pomelo farm. He's using his bruised hands to build a home to repay a debt of gratitude, preparing for a wedding that is poor in wealth, but rich in emotion. Just as Deem discovers she's pregnant, Huyen prepares his final move. Wait for me, enemies. My return will be your worst nightmare. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the shocking revenge of the laborer CEO. Your support is what drives us to release the next episode as soon as possible. Following his bold decision to stay at the farm instead of returning to the city immediately, Huyen and Deem's lives have entered a brand new chapter. Gone are the tailored suits and designer heels. Now they wear worn-out work clothes, starting their days with real manual labor. As soon as the wild roosters crow and the fog still hangs heavy over the pomelo trees, Huyen is already up. He quietly steps out into the yard, splashing cold water on his face to shake off the sleep. His hands, once used to only holding pens for signatures, are now rough and cracked from the elements, yet they've become incredibly strong. Deem is right there with him. She gets up early to start the stove. The smoke stings her eyes, but she always has a smile on her lips. Breakfast is just roasted sweet potatoes or leftover rice with seasoned salt, but somehow it tastes better than anything they've ever had. Huyen, Deem says, handing him a bowl of rice. I never thought I'd be able to get up this early without feeling exhausted. Maybe it's because here I feel like you truly belong to me, not to the corporation, not to the board meetings. Huyen takes her hand and gives it a gentle squeeze. I'm sorry for putting you through this, but I just need a little more time. I need my body to fully recover, and I need to understand this land before I make it a part of our plan. At Mr. Nam's Pomelo warehouse, Huyen starts his shift. Each crate of pomelos weighs nearly 110 pounds, and he hauls hundreds of them from the orchard to the trucks every day. In the beginning, Huyen's shoulders were swollen and blood seeped through his t-shirt. But he never uttered a single complaint. He watched the other laborers learning how to use endurance instead of just raw muscle. Soon, Huyen became the best loader at the warehouse. The thing about Huyen is that even while doing heavy labor, he still thinks like an engineer. He suggested a new loading layout to Mr. Nam based on load-bearing diagrams, allowing the trucks to carry 20% more cargo without any wobbling. Mr. Nam began to look at this laborer in a completely different light. Hey, Huyen, where'd you learn to stack crates like that? Huyen just gave a small smile. I just sort of winged the math, sir. As long as it stays steady, I'm happy. But deep down, Tone was hardening his resolve. Every crate of pomelos he hoisted onto his shoulders felt like the weight of his past, a weight he was overcoming step by step. On another side of the farm, Deem took over the picking and sorting. She wore a conical hat and an old, oversized, long-sleeved shirt borrowed from the elderly woman they stayed with. The job seemed simple enough, but it required extreme patience. Deem had to navigate through dense rows of trees bending over to pick up fallen fruit, then wiping away the dust and sorting them by size. Thorn pricks stung her hands, and caterpillars left itchy red welts on her fair skin. There were moments when she was so exhausted, she felt like fainting. She'd sit down at the base of a tree, looking at her scratched-up hands, thinking back to luxury spa days and sipping cocktails by the pool. But then she'd catch a glimpse of Tone in the distance, drenched in sweat, hauling heavy loads, and she'd stand right back up, dust off her shirt, and keep going. The elderly landlady walked by and saw Deem meticulously cleaning each fruit. She nodded in approval. You know, girl, they say a gem only shines after it's been polished. You aren't from around here, but the heart you put into this work, it's more than most people I know. Lunch break was their most precious time. Toan and Deem would meet under an ancient banyan tree in the middle of the warehouse grounds. They'd share the lunch pail Deem had packed. Toan, what happened to your hands? They're all red. Let me see. He took her small hands in his heart aching for her. Deem, I'm fine really. Just some scratches from the thorns. But look at you. Tone, your shoulder is bleeding again. They tended to each other's wounds amidst the rustling leaves. Toan told Deem about the schemes he'd been piecing together from the conversations he overheard between the wholesalers. He realized there was a price-fixing ring squeezing the locals, and the name behind it seemed linked to his old corporation. Deem, we aren't just getting by, he said. We're gathering intel. People at the top never know how bitter a farmer's sweat actually tastes. When I go back, I'm going to change everything. Despite trying to stay under the radar, their natural presence still rubbed some people the wrong way. A warehouse manager named Hung, a notorious bully, had been harassing Deem, taken by her beauty. One afternoon, as Deem was struggling to carry a heavy basket of pomelos, Hung deliberately tripped her. She tumbled over, and the fruit went rolling everywhere. He let out a loud, obnoxious laugh. A little princess like you shouldn't be so clumsy. How about I teach you how to work properly? Toan was there in a flash. He didn't throw a punch. He just stood in front of Deem, locking eyes with Hung. It was the gaze of a CEO who had managed thousands of employees, a cold, authoritative stare so piercing that the manager's legs actually started to shake. The words he was about to say got stuck in his throat. Clean up those pomelos for her, now. Toan said, his voice low but lethal. To everyone's shock, the manager slunk away and did exactly as he was told. From that day on, nobody dared to mess with the laborer couple again. Every night, after the work was done, they'd head back to the old lady's small wooden shack. Toan put his engineering background to use, fixing the leaky roof and building a simple water filtration system for her. Under the peaceful moonlight, they sat together on a bamboo bed. Deem, Do you miss the city? Toan, I do. I miss the unfinished business waiting for me. But here, I've found something the city could never offer, the silence to truly see myself. Toan pulled a small scrap of paper from his pocket, covered in a sketched-out strategic diagram. Huyen thinks I'm either dead or a total wreck. She's currently expanding her real estate project right here on this land. She has no idea that this laborer holds the key to bringing her entire empire crashing down. Deem leaned her head on his shoulder. She knew this simple life was a necessary step back to leap further ahead. The calluses on Toan's hands and her own scars would be the ultimate proof of their powerful rebirth. The sound of crickets filled the fields. The old lady had gone to bed early, leaving the two of them alone. Tone gently massaged Diem's aching feet. Tomorrow, I'm going to haul 10 extra loads to buy you some new clothes. These are getting pretty torn up, Toan whispered. Diem smiled, her eyes brimming with tears. I don't need new clothes. I just need to wake up every morning and see you here healthy and safe. They fell asleep, surrounded by the heavy scent of Pomelos, a sleep free of nightmares, or being hunted, fueled only by an ironclad faith in tomorrow. After 3 months, Toan was no longer the new guy, fumbling with crates. He was now the strongest, fastest, and most respected worker among the crew. He didn't just use brawn, he used his brain to overhaul their workflow. He designed a simple pulley system using wood and rope to lift pomelos from the boats to the shore, saving the men from the grueling climb. Mr. Nom, the warehouse owner, now treated Tone like his right-hand man. Every morning, people would see Tone standing at the edge of the yard, delegating tasks to the crew with the calm, commanding presence of a natural leader, even though he was just wearing a faded tank top and dusty work pants. Diem had completely transformed as well. The former high society girl was now a quick-witted worker. Beyond just picking and sorting, she helped Mr. Nom with the bookkeeping and payroll. Her transparency and precision made the warehouse run like clockwork, ending the constant bickering over missing wages. Toan, that girl Deem, is a real blessing, the old landlady said one late afternoon, slowly chewing her betel nut. Seeing how hard she works, nobody would ever guess she came from a wealthy family. Toan watched Diem busying herself with a pile of fruit, a wave of emotion hitting him. He knew she wasn't here because she loved being poor. She was here because she loved him. One evening, after the work had wound down, they sat on the porch. The old lady had turned in early. The full moon draped the yard in silver. Toan took some medicated oil and gently massaged Diem's thin hands. Diem, do you regret any of this? It's been 3 months of sleeping on wooden planks, eating simple greens and getting your hands covered in scars. She smiles, leaning her head on his shoulder. I told you, home is wherever you are. Here I don't have to look over my shoulder or listen to lies. I'm happy, Tone. Toan squeezed her hand. He took a deep breath. The faint scent of pomelo, blossoms in the breeze, seemed to fuel his strength. Wait just a little longer. Once Uncle Thu has everything sorted back in the city, and once I've saved up a bit of capital from this job, Diem, I'm going to give you a wedding. It doesn't need to be some flashy 5-star hotel affair, but I want it to be a proper ceremony, so I can call you my wife in front of the old lady, our friends at the warehouse, and the whole world. Diem looked up at him, her eyes glistening. You promise? I promise. After we take back what's ours, I'll build the old lady a beautiful brick house, and then I'll take you home. But even when we're back in the city, I'll never forget the days we spent hauling crates together here. But the peace didn't last forever. Tone and Diem's stability at the warehouse began to catch the wrong kind of attention. Lung Quan, a notorious local middleman known for squeezing farmers, grew envious of how well Mr. Nam's business was doing with the help of these outsiders. One sweltering afternoon, he showed up at the warehouse, followed by a gang of heavily tattooed thugs. I heard Nam's got a hotshot laborer and a pretty secretary. I'm here to see if this place knows how to pay its protection tax, Quan sneered, twisting a large gold ring on his finger. Mr. Nam began to tremble, but Tone stepped forward immediately. He stood like a mountain shielding Deem and Mr. Nam. There are only honest workers here. We don't know anything about a tax. Please leave. You little punk. You trying to lecture me. He swung his hand to slap Tone, but Tone caught his wrist in a flash. With a slight twist, Quan was forced to his knees in agony. The thugs started to lunge forward, but they froze when they saw the cold steel in Tone's eyes and his disciplined combat stance. I don't want trouble, but if you touch this place, I won't hold back. Get out. Tuan's bravery rallied the other laborers. They stood up as one surrounding the gang with carrying poles and crates. Quan retreated fuming, but threw back a look of pure hatred before disappearing. After that, Tuan knew he couldn't be complacent. He started teaching the crew some basic self-defense moves. He also secretly contacted Uncle Thu to speed up the collection of evidence regarding Huyen's betrayal back in the city. Every night, Tuan and Diem sat by a small fire behind the house, reviewing management and economic theories. Tuan used fallen pomelos as examples for business problems. You see, business is just like picking pomelos. You have to know which are ripe, which are green, and which are rotten. If you're greedy and pick the spoiled ones, the whole crate goes bad. Huyen was too greedy. She picked the rotten fruit of betrayal, so her empire is bound to collapse from within. Looking at Tuan Diem saw a CEO who was not just returning to life, but one who was coming back with more wisdom and empathy than ever before. One night, at the end of the month, after receiving his highest paycheck, yet Tuan planned a small surprise. He gathered pure white pomelo blossoms and wove them into a delicate wreath. He led Diem out to the ancient banyan tree, their usual spot for lunch breaks. Diem, I don't have a diamond ring or a grand orchestra today. I only have this wreath of flowers. I want to give this to you as a promise. I swear, once the storm passes, I will give you the status and the life you truly deserve. Tuan gently placed the wreath on Diem's silky hair. In the moonlight, she looked as pure and radiant as a forest goddess. I don't need diamonds, Tone. This wreath is more precious to me than anything. I'll wait for the day you take me home, whether it's in the city or anywhere else. They held each other under the banyan tree in the quiet of the countryside. The rustling leaves sounded like a blessing from nature for two souls who had weathered the storm together. The next morning, Tone received the signal from Uncle Thu. The corporation's major shareholders had begun to doubt Huyen due to massive losses from poor quality projects. The time was ripe. Huyen looked down at his hands. The calluses were now a badge of honor. He was ready. He wasn't just returning as a CEO, but as a man who had tasted the full spectrum of life's bitterness and sweetness, backed by an unshakable love. Deem, get your things ready. We're heading back to the city next week. But before that, let's help the old lady finish this last pomelo harvest. They worked harder than ever. Each fruit was handled with care. Every smile was shared with intent. They knew that while a life of wealth awaited them, these days spent as laborers would remain their most beautiful memories, the solid foundation for their marriage. Tomorrow the sun would rise over the orchards, and it would rise over their lives. A grand wedding was drawing near. Instead of hiring a luxury event planner, Tone decided to use his own hands and his engineering mind to build everything himself. He wanted this wedding to be more than just for the two of them. It was a thank you feast for the old lady and the fellow laborers who had taken them in. Tone started sketching decoration plans on old Pomelo packaging paper. He used natural local materials, aged bamboo coconut leaves, and clusters of fragrant white pomelo flowers. Deem, I'm going to build a floral archway out of bamboo and coconut leaves at the entrance. No plastic flowers. I want real pomelo blossoms, so the scent stays with you for the rest of your life. With eyes sparkling with happiness, I'll help you string together curtains of beads made from dried pine cones. Let's have the greenest and most fragrant wedding this village has ever seen. Word that Huyen the laborer and Deem the sorter were getting married spread like wildfire through the warehouse and the village. These humble country folk, rich in heart, began bringing simple gifts. Mr. Nom decided to give the entire crew the day off to help Huyen set up the tent. He even donated 450 pounds of his finest pomelos as a wedding gift. The women at the warehouse gathered scraps of red fabric, sewing them into clean, festive tablecloths. The old landlady opened her ancient wooden chest and pulled out a velvet shawl worn but still smelling faintly of incense. I don't have much but this shawl. This was left to me by my mother. I'm giving it to Deem so she can look her best on her wedding day. Looking at all the love around her, Deem burst into tears. Back in the city, people gift each other envelopes filled with thousands of dollars. But it rarely comes with this kind of genuine heart. Without any famous bridal boutiques, Deem and the old lady hand-sewed a simple aodai from a roll of silk that Uncle Thu had secretly sent in. Under the flickering light of a kerosene lamp, Deem meticulously embroidered tiny pomelo blossoms onto the fabric. Huyen sat by her side, helping her thread the needles, his eyes never leaving the face of the woman who had sacrificed everything for him. When we get back to the city, I'll get you a gown from the world's top designers. Tone promised. Deem shook her head gently. This aodai is priceless to me, Huyen, because it was made during the days we truly belonged to each other. Huyen prepared himself as well. No luxury suit for him. He chose a simple white button-down and carefully trimmed his calloused nails. He wanted to walk down the aisle as a man who had been reborn from the dirt. The night before the wedding, the warehouse was unusually quiet. Huyen and his fellow laborers gathered around a fire, sharing cheap rice wine and roasted yams. Tone man, we really respect you, one of them said. You're a hell of a worker, and you love your woman right. Take care of Deem. Women like her are rare these days. Thanks, guys. If I hadn't spent these days hauling crates with you, I might never have understood the true value of hard work and human connection. Inside the house, Diem was talking with the old lady. The woman brushed Diem's hair, her frail, trembling hands stroking the silky strands. Marrying Tone will be a challenge, child. He's a man of great ambition. He won't stay at this warehouse for long. But I believe that no matter who he becomes, he will protect you until the very end. On the morning of the wedding, the warehouse was buzzing with laughter. The entrance featured the bamboo and coconut leaf archway, interwoven with clusters of pure white pomelo blossoms that filled the air with a sweet fragrance. The ceremony began with the sound of firecrackers made from dried leaves. Toan took Diem's hand, walking down the red dirt path that the crew had swept clean. In her white aodai embroidered with pomelo flowers and a crown of wild blossoms, Diem looked ethereal amidst the humble surroundings. Mr. Nam stood in as the officiant. Today is a big day for our warehouse. Toan and Diem are officially becoming husband and wife. I hope that no matter how high or far you two fly in the future, you'll never forget this place. Toan held Diem's hand, his voice steady and clear before everyone. I want to thank the lady here, Mr. Nam, and all my brothers. Today, I vow to protect Diem with my entire life. We will live in a way that honors the kindness you've all shown us. The reception took place right in the warehouse yard. The feast consisted of hill chicken river fish and, of course, plenty of sweet pomelos. There was no loud club music, only the sound of a flute played by one of the laborers and traditional call and response singing from the women. As the celebration reached its peak, a familiar delivery truck backed into the yard. But this time, it wasn't a typical merchant who stepped out. It was Uncle Thu, dressed in a formal suit. Uncle Thu walked up and handed Tone a black leather briefcase. Han! Congratulations on your wedding, Toan. This is the most meaningful wedding gift I could give you. A file on the shareholders who have agreed to swing their support back to you, and the court summons for Huyen, which has already been drafted. Tomorrow, the counterattack begins. Toan looked at Uncle Thu, then at Diem. His gaze shifted from tender to rock solid. He knew the chapter of his life at the Pomelo warehouse was coming to a close, but it was the launching pad for the justice that lay ahead. Understood, Uncle Thu. But tonight, let me just be a normal husband, just one of the guys here. Tomorrow, the CEO returns. Their wedding night took place in the small room at the old lady's house, filled with the fragrance of pomelo blossoms. Toan held Diem in his arms. The warmth of having survived so much together gave them a sense of absolute security. Hey, wifey. Tomorrow morning we take the earliest bus back to the city. Are you ready to be the first lady of an empire? I'm happy just being the wife of my pomelo hauler. They smiled as a peaceful sleep took over, signaling a brilliant yet stormy new beginning waiting for them in the capital. In the days following the wedding, life seemed to slow down, though their bond grew more intense. Every morning, instead of walking separately, they held hands as they headed to the warehouse. Toan still hauled heavy crates, but now, whenever he broke a sweat, Diem was right there with a bottle of cool water and her embroidered handkerchief. They moved out of their temporary quarters. With the help of the crew, Toan built a small addition onto the old lady's house. It had a window overlooking a herb garden where Deem planted jasmine and wild roses. "Toan," Diem whispered one evening as she mended his work shirt. "Life is so peaceful like this. Sometimes I'm afraid that if we go back, the noise of the city will steal this stillness from us." Toan pulled her close. "I get it. But we aren't going back just for the money. We're going back for justice and honor, so that one day our children can be proud of who their parents are." Toan knew that to face Huyen and the corporate sharks, he needed independent financial backing. He didn't want to rely solely on Uncle Thu's funds, leveraging his management expertise. Toan convinced Mr. Nam to change their sales strategy. Instead of selling to middlemen who squeezed their margins, Toan used a secure satellite phone to bypass the local mobs and connect directly with high-end organic supermarkets in the city through old loyal contacts. The price of their pomelos jumped by 50%. The lives of the laborers improved overnight, and Mr. Nam gave Toan and Diem a well-deserved commission. Toan tucked that money away into a separate account. He told Diem, "This is the real blood, sweat, and tears money. This will be the first start of a college fund for our future kids." They agreed on one thing: they wouldn't have a baby just yet. They wanted their child to be born into a safe environment once the enemies were cleared out, and their home in the city was no longer a den of conspiracies. Every night, their little house turned into a miniature war room. Under the glow of a kerosene lamp, Diem helped Toan cross-reference clauses in old contracts that Uncle Thu had smuggled to them. Together, they analyzed the data, the discrepancies in Huyen's fraudulent signatures while Toan was missing, identifying potential allies to win over and enemies to eliminate. Diem revealed a natural gift for human resources. Based on Toan's descriptions, she could read people's personalities, helping him craft razor-sharp psychological tactics. Looking at his wife, Toan silently thanked fate for giving him such a brilliant chief of staff. Even though they had agreed to wait for stability before having children, Diem's maternal instincts occasionally surfaced. Sometimes, when she saw the elderly landlady carrying a neighbor's baby over to play Diem, would stand there mesmerized by the child's chubby cheeks. Toan understood. One night, he caught Diem meticulously knitting a tiny woolen sock using leftover yarn. Toan gently hugging Diem from behind. "You really want a baby, don't you?" Diem shyly, hiding the sock. I was just doing it for fun. I know what I promised you. Now isn't the time." Toan turned her around, looking deep into her eyes. "Don't hide it from me. I crave being a father just as much. Just give me 6 more months. Only 6 months. Once I clear the wreckage in the city, I'll devote all my time to helping you raise our little angel." During their 5th month at the warehouse, a sudden flash flood hit the highlands. Mr. Nam's Pomelo farm was on the verge of total destruction. Toan Diem and the crew stayed awake for 3 straight nights to shore up the embankments and pump out water, saving every single tree. In the chaos, Diem slipped and fell into the raging current. Without a thought for his own safety, Toan dove in to save his wife. By the time he pulled her to shore, Diem had fainted from exhaustion and the freezing cold. That night, as Tuan watched Diem lying unconscious, her face pale, his heart tightened. He realized that the stability he was searching for wasn't about having billions in the bank. It was about the safety of those he loved. When Diem finally woke up, her first question was, "Are the guys, Pomelos, okay?" Tuan burst into tears, holding her tight. "The Pomelos are fine, but if anything happened to you, how could I go on Diem? We're leaving. I can't let you face any more danger here. We're going back to the city, taking back our positions, and we'll prepare for a baby under absolute protection." On the day before they left, the old lady called them inside. She handed Diem a bowl of fragrant herbal medicine. So this is a restorative tonic made from the rarest ginseng in my garden. Drink it, child, to strengthen your body. Good land attracts birds. A peaceful soul allows new life to sprout. That very day, a surprise piece of news left them both stunned. Following the flood, Deem had noticed strange changes in her body. Uncle Thu secretly brought a private doctor from the city to the warehouse to check on her. The doctor smiled warmly. "Tuan Diem, congratulations. You're 6 weeks pregnant. It seems your new sprout arrived earlier than expected right as the storm passed." Tuan and Diem looked at each other speechless. Tears of joy mingled with a powerful sense of hope. This child arrived as a gift for their perseverance, a testament to a love that endured through hardship. So the little one wants to come back with us to demand justice. The baby will be your strength, Tuan. That morning, a sleek black corporate sedan dispatched by Uncle Thu pulled up in front of the old lady's house. Tuan stepped out in a sharp, elegant black suit, his commanding presence fully restored. Beside him, Diem wore a soft, flowing maternity dress, her hand locked firmly in his. The entire warehouse ground to a halt to see them off. Mr. Nam and the crew lined the red dirt road. "Thank you, everyone," Tone announced. "I'm leaving, but this warehouse will never be left behind. I'm going to turn this place into the most modern pomelo farm in Vietnam, and all of you will be its first shareholders." As the car pulled away, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the echoing cheers of the workers, Toon looked through the rearview mirror. He saw the old lady still standing there waving that worn velvet shawl. He squeezed Diem's hand tightly and leaned down to kiss her stomach. "Let's go home. It's time to build the brightest future for our child."
Niềm tin ban đầu cho biết rằng may mắn ngày của từ London. Ban ngày thì dở dạc như người dân buôn bán tới đến và xuất hiện trước. 1.000 dân đập phá bàn ghế.